All right, President Trump has called out fake news in the failing New York Times, but now he has a preferred label for the entire mainstream media establishment. It's enemies of the people. Now, complaints about the label could have emboldened the president. In fact, it has. He's doubling down on using it. So now the media is going back to calling Trump a dictator.
This is the type of behavior that happens in authoritarian societies, where leaders and their supporters are pushing down the media.
When he says fake news, he means news that is not favorable to me. But that is not how it is received by the people to whom he is speaking. They think that the news is being made up. Folks, it's not.
It's a very cynical strategy, trying to divide between good outlets and bad outlets. Trump does this sometimes. It's BS, and it should be called out.
And he does every time they give him a microphone. Tammy Bruce is the president of the Independent Women's Voice and joins us right now. Tammy, who's right?
The president's right. And here's the issue. Gallup did a poll about the importance of the American media. And, of course, the supermajority of Americans believe they have an important role in our democracy, right? I mean, they're supposed to be giving us the news and challenging power. And just by not doing their job, which they clearly have abandoned since President Trump was candidate Trump, they've thrown their lot in within the political arena. They've decided that they are going to help certain things along, which is an abandonment of the American people in general. And so there's also a majority of people, I think it was 66%, believe that there's no real fair, unbiased news that they can rely on. So Americans, at least there's, other outlets they can get some news from. But this has been an abandonment of an incredibly important American industry. And you see it right there. What's fascinating is if Trump was a dictator, none of those opinions would be heard on the news, right? It's turned into a selfish, inward-looking entity, almost like an infant that's not getting what it wants.
I mean, there are so many deranged people out there. I worry about them getting the wrong idea and really targeting the media. And you did see on C-SPAN a caller call in and say, "I will shoot Brian Stelter." So that is disturbing on all counts.
It is, and obviously the problem here with this entire dialogue is that the media, as opposed to doing their job and just reporting the news for people, which would take all the steam out of what President Trump would be saying, but at the same time, maybe he wouldn't be accusing them of being fake news. We do know, of course, people have been hurt, and it has been Steve Scalise, attempted murder of 23 other Republicans, the attack of Rand Paul. You've got threats and individuals being arrested for threatening the president and other Republican office holders. So we know that the rhetoric has compelled people to do crazy things. So we all need to recognize that.
Yeah, Sarah Sanders, Kirsten Nielsen, all Stephen Miller. Now, another topic. Over the weekend, the president tweeted. LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. I like Mike. The president was instantly labeled a racist, even though he's actually been calling other people who happen to be white dumb for years. Bob Corker called him dumb and incompetent. Lindsey Graham dumb. He called Mitt Romney the dumbest candidate and the worst candidate we've ever had. And Mika Brzezinski dumb as, I think, a pile of rocks. So he's an equal opportunity offender.
Yes.
Are you surprised people saw race in this?
I think that's, LeBron has announced that he needed to do more than just sports. He's concerned about his community, so he's engaged, and that means talking about politics. So he's in the kitchen now. And that is a reaction not from people of color. It transcends complexion, but it's a liberal answer to attacks. And it's a habit. And I think LeBron James is better than that. I think that he knows, and everybody knows Donald Trump, incredibly transparent. You're right. Says all of these things about all kinds of people. And the fact is that Donald Trump is actually quite fair in the nature of who he's going to attack and praise based on the nature of what they're doing as he reacts to what he sees as either negative or positive dynamics.
I wish he wouldn't have done it. I wish he wouldn't do it with a personal attack. LeBron James takes shots at him. And by the way, he's not dumb. Don Lemon is not dumb. But keep in mind, the president played golf this week with Lindsey Graham. A man that he's insulted repeatedly, took his phone number and read it to the whole world.
One of the things that goes back to our first conversation that we can ease some of this is go after people on policy. Talk about the issues that affect our lives, that the personal back and forth from the media to the president and to Republicans and the other way is not necessarily the most helpful thing. We need these policies that the president's promoting to succeed because they help our lives directly.
All right, last topic for you. Tammy, we proved that we can do three, and we're about to prove it now.
Yes, we're going to do it.
One thing over the weekend, Antifa ugly again. Demonstrations in Portland and in Berkeley, they got violent. Meanwhile, conservative activists Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens wanted to do this thing called have breakfast, and they were harassed this morning at a Philadelphia coffee shop. You got one man, they came flying in there, poured a drink on Kirk, while numerous other white activists shrieked, "No white supremacy." By the way, Candace Owens is black. They also had anti-cop rants at the end of it. And Candace Owens, I just saw tweeted out, thanking the cops for stepping in at the right time. This could have been really ugly.
Yeah, it could have been. And look, they even smashed the window of a Marine Corps recruiting station.
The Antifa did.
The Antifa did. But you're looking at, white supremacists or the alt-right and Antifa. There are people who are pretty much probably living in their parents' basements coming out into the light for the first time.
That was one of the clashes.
And I think that you're dealing with both Portland and Berkeley, which have not had a very good history of confronting these things. Even recently in Portland, of the police and the mayor kind of not acting when Antifa, as an example, was blocking an ICE office. So these are cities that have seemed to kind of, for some reason, prefer that these things get out of control. Obviously, the American people see this. It's not good for certainly liberals. It's not good for our dialogue, but the violence is unacceptable, and the police departments have got to have a bit more aggression when it comes to stopping.
These are the flares. That this is going to get really ugly. We're watching those violent groups. But when Candace Owens, for example, wants to have breakfast with Charlie Kirk, two 20-somethings who are part of Turning Point, and they just want to have breakfast in Philadelphia, where our country was essentially founded, where the Liberty Bell sits, and they have to take this type of abuse.
Well, this is, remember,
because they believe something different.
The Maxine Waters argument of confront people, that was really a message and a permission slip to confront Trump supporters. It wasn't just about the administration. Few people have access to administration members, but you do have access maybe to a Candace Owens and to a Charlie Kirk and to your neighbor. That's why when you've got somebody like Maxine Waters, any other representative, leadership needs to step forward. Democrat leadership has to step forward and say, really, enough is enough. They can stop this by signaling that. Hillary can help stop it. Jesse Jackson can help stop it. Paul Ryan can. Mitch McConnell. It's across the board. They can come together and say enough is enough if they really want it to end.
Right. I tell you what, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk will be on Fox and Friends tomorrow to talk about that incident. It's extremely hard to keep you cool. You don't know how out of control that's going to get. This time he was hit with water. Who knows what's going to be next?
Right.
Tammy Bruce, thanks so much and great job on the 5.
Thank you.
All right. I know you'll be here tomorrow night.
I will, tomorrow night in that chair.
You'll be right over here. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Tucker is back after the break to interview a Democratic congressman.